Hello, everyone. Hi, welcome to Dice Legends. It's great to have you with me. If you're new to our show, my name is Vahid, and look who we've got with us today.
What? Enemy! That is the dozens and dozens of my fans cheering, yes.
V. Dave Walters, thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to get to know you a bit better.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's I'm speaking to you from the recent past, you know. So I'm talking to time travelers today, people who live in the future.
Exactly. I'll tell you what. Yeah. So we're Wednesday over here. You're Tuesday over there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday.
I'm glad to know the world makes it to Wednesday, so it's all good.
Well, I don't know about your Tuesday, but our Tuesday was pretty dismal here in New Zealand, and our Wednesday is a lot better. So,
well, glad to hear it. It's I still have not recovered from Comic-Con, so my Monday, I suppose, is an absolute blur. Although I have to say right up front, shout out to Miss Gina Darling and Megan Kenrick, whose birthdays were both yesterday. So happy belated to you guys. Happy super belated.
Wait.
People that are living in the future.
So their birthday was on July 25th?
Yes.
That was my birthday.
Hey, well, happy belated to you too. Happy slightly less belated though, because I'm in the past.
That's right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's so good to have you with us. And the first thing I was actually really interested in is talking about the Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big thing. I've got a photo here that I want to share. Look at you and all these beautiful people.
Hey, look at us. Yeah, this was by a wide margin my busiest con. I've been doing panels since 2013, and this year I had all told about 10 different events in terms of panels and games and whatnot, so it was wild. That right there was the POC and TTRPGs panel that we did Thursday night, so we look all fresh-faced and spry because that was the beginning, versus if you see the way I look in the Everyone's Playing D&D panel or the McElroy's panel on Sunday, things are beginning to droop. Yeah, because I went hard, man. I was out until 2 or 3 in the morning every night and back up when the con opened the next day, just nonstop. But what's wild is since I've come home, I've still been up till 2 or 3 in the morning and my eyes just pop up like at the same time. And I'm like, nobody, rest. We're good. Our watch is ended, you know?
So it started, because from here in New Zealand, as you could imagine, not a lot of people from New Zealand go over to the Comic-Con because,
Sure.
There's a big Pacific Ocean between us.
Word is you have to literally travel through time. Yes.
That's right,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But it's a big deal, right?
It is. This year, obviously it didn't happen the last couple of years because of the pandemic. I felt this year was about 70% of the previous crowd because at its height, it was about 250,000 people.
Wait,
this was
what? 250,000 people?
Yeah. There's a moment at Comic-Con that is like my moment of maximum power for the year when you can exit the hall and there's just human beings as far as the eye can see, like off into the horizon in every single direction. And that's like my Dragon Ball Z moment of like, but yeah, exactly. But it was still pretty good. Yeah.
How is that possible?
It's tight. Yeah, it's tight, but I'm gigantic. I'm like 2.05 meters. So like everybody's kind of down here. So like the crowd doesn't really bother me. Yeah, exactly. See, and Nora and Alicia are both, not only are they tall, but they're both wearing significant heels.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Nora does always wear heels, definitely. I was actually gonna ask you, is that your full height or were you on tippy toes?
No, that's just me standing. Yeah.
Wow.
Surrounded by, normal humans.
Normal humans, and right. You're this giant of a man.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am. Yeah.
Brilliant, excellent. I just want to quickly turn towards our people in chat just for a moment and say hi.
What's up, y'all?
Hey, what's up, y'all? Thanks for joining us. I'm just going to quickly say who I am and what our channel is, and then we'll dive into it. So, if you're new to our channel, welcome. It's great to have you here. My name is Vahid. I am the dungeon master for our channel called Dice Legends. And usually we run our show on the weekend, and then we do a midweek chat streamed chat, and that is today. So just to quickly show you a little bit about ourselves. So the rest of our cast, this is the rest of our cast.
Hello, rest of the cast.
Lovely bunch of goofy goobers. And we film out of a studio here in New Zealand, as you can see behind me.
Lovely.
Welcome to the show. We really appreciate you joining us. And we're just going to be chitty-chatting. And along the way, feel free in chat to ask, to make comments, ask questions, and all that kind of stuff. And first-time chatters, it's always good to have you here. So yeah.
Yeah, I super take all questions, whatever. You know what I mean? I'll answer anything. On the very off chance you ask me something I can't answer, I'll say I can't answer it. So, have at it.
That's right. If something's out of bounds, we'll just say, sorry, it's out of bounds.
Yeah, basically. Don't want to get shot up by NDA bullets.
Cool. Hey, so the first question I really wanted to ask you, for you to share with us, is something that I ask all of the people that come on these midweek chats, and that is your origin story.
I would like the record to show. He tried to prep me. He tried to be like, this is what I'm going to ask. I'm like, I want to know. Just let's go blind. You're going to get my genuine and authentic real-time reaction to anything you ask. Origin story. I grew up surrounded by geekery. My mom was a geek. So, Star Wars, Star Trek, comic books, all these things have been my life all along. I did grow up during the Satanic Panic. I'm way older than I appear. So it's funny because you just to hear like it coming up again, I'm like, don't quote the deep magic to me. I was there when it was written. And a point I made when this came up over the weekend at the con, I think a large part of the reason why D&D exists as it does is because of the Satanic Panic, because it became not just a game, but it became something like, ooh, dangerous, you know what I mean, that you could do to rebel.
Yeah.
If not for the Satanic Panic, there's no monopoly subculture. I think D&D would just be another game that you just kind of play sometimes.
Yeah.
So I saw the transition from it being something dangerous to just something just freaking nerdy that you just don't talk about, to see its star rise again is this really dope thing. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah, it is astonishing because I have played every edition of the game. Mm-hmm. I started as a child, and so you've played from a young age.
Since I was 13.
Since you were 13.
When dinosaurs rule the earth. Yes.
Don't be ridiculous. And have you always? So how did you get into DMing? Because you're both a DM and a player.
Yeah, I do both. So originally, the very first game I played was a game called Rifts by Palladium.
Yeah. Right.
Which
I never played it, but everyone says it was super cool.
It was, but it had a terrible power creep problem. That everything that came out in every source book was literally twice as powerful as the source book before. So it didn't matter. You had to constantly be re-rolling or you would just get smashed constantly. And then when I was playing Rifts, a friend of mine who was a giant hipster was like, well, if you're going to play, you got to play D&D.
Yeah, man.
And he and my first character ever was an elven fighter mage thief based on Vampire Hunter D, big hat, long sword. And he and I would take turns running the game for each other. That's why I did a whole season of games playing one-on-one with people at one-on-one shots. It's up on YouTube. Because that was how I first experienced the game. And then over time, eventually, found a group and would do things. But so I guess from the very beginning, I've been doing both.
Yeah. That's interesting because I got into it with my family, with my brother and my sister, and it would just be the three of us. And there's something, I actually really like small parties, to be honest. And my brother and I still do single player, like just the two of us games. Mm-hmm. You can get through a lot of plot when there's just two players.
Yes, especially if you have the trust and the rapport necessary to be able to get into something interesting, or however you want it at your table. You might just want like some super slapstick hack and slash, but if that's what the two of you have showed up for, yeah, have at it. There's no wrong way to play.
For sure.
I've started with groups of one. I ran a group of 18 for a long time.
That's insane.
Because we started a lunch group at my work, and more people started wanting to play, and anybody that asked to play, I wouldn't say no. And the group was 18 people, which again, I don't necessarily recommend. I broke them into 3 groups of 6. It would be like, okay, when I'm going to come to you guys, you tell me what you do, this, and this, and you guys are going to do this, and this, and you guys are going to do this, and this, and then this happens. And so it was, I had to streamline it a lot, or we wouldn't have gotten through like a turn at a lunch break. And I recently just did Idle Champions Presents with a group of 16 heroes fighting Tiamat. That was just like 2 months ago.
Insane.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think 6, anything more than 6. I like 4, to be honest. I think 4 is a sweet spot. 6 is good. I don't anything over 6. I don't enjoy anything over 6 as much.
It begins to become prohibitive just because the game just takes longer, and longer periods of time when a person isn't doing something. So it is by no means optimal. The reason I think 4 is a good minimum. The reason why I like 6 is, especially for a stream, is something interesting is always happening. Somebody always has an idea. Somebody always has something to say. There's never really a lull because there's always something to bounce off of, and it keeps the show moving faster. But again, I've done 4, I've done 1, so.
Yeah, sure, yeah. And so what about, in terms of your origin story, what about your transition, the next level of geekdom, of moving from playing into streaming?
How I went pro.
Yeah, man.
So I was producing content in the streaming space since 2009.
That's a week ago.
And in 2017, Damien Poitier called me up, and said, I have an idea for a show called Ask Your Black Geek Friend. He called me on a Wednesday. I said, I'm in. We shot it at Geek and Sundry that Saturday. That Monday, they said they wanted to pick up the show. That was in March of 2017, but the show didn't actually go up until August. So I'm in and I'm doing the talk show, and they're doing actual plays, and I knew I'd been playing longer than many of them had been alive, but they just saw me as like the talk guy. Until that December, there was a charity game where we played Vampire for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Which was Jason Carl's first time streaming, in the night I met him. And I knew this was my opportunity to show everybody what I could do. So I dressed up, I did the costume, I painted my nails because I was a gangrel, I did a voice. I just went like really in on it to show people that I could.
Yeah, sure.
And then after that, I just started getting cast in everything, and it hadn't stopped till today, thankfully.
Honestly, you are in everything.
Man, I'm trying.
I have no idea like how you find the time, to be honest.
Look, man, I'll sleep eventually, But one of the things I always tell people, there's only one thing that every human being on Earth is equal in, and that is time. We've all got 168 hours in a week. We're different sizes, different strengths, different levels of intelligence or charisma or financial background, but we all have 168 hours, and there's time for everything if you manage it right. Maybe not over the course of a given day, but over a week, over a month, you can fit it all in. And I know people say on occasion that they're like, oh, it's not all the same because I work and I have kids. And I'm like, well, you've just already spent 140 of your hours, but you still got the exact same pool, the bag of time that everybody else has. So
yeah, it's just how we decide to spend that time, right?
Yeah, man. Mm-hmm.
And some of us are blessed to not need as much sleep as others.
The real sad thing about this, because everybody comments on the fact that I don't sleep and that I'm up at all hours and engaging in social media and all of that stuff. I actually really enjoy sleep. Like, I actually like it. I just don't get much of it. You know what I mean? So when I do get it, it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm blessed that I only really need 6 hours, which is definitely a blessing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you So Geek and Sundry was really how you got into it, into the thing. And so since August 2017, you've been on the screen since then. Well, you started in 2009, but wow, cool.
Right. But basically, I've in the streaming space since August of 2017. Yep.
Yeah. And your Vampires, you know what? I've never played Vampires. Everyone says it's an awesome system.
The storyteller system for Vampire is very incredible. Hang on, wait.
No problem.
Just Yeah, boom. I have my special edition from when I'm being bougie. You know, there's also the standard edition. But I like to be extra. The
Yeah.
storyteller system is great. It's very intuitive. But the thing about Vampire in general, it's got a much lower barrier of entry
Yeah.
than D&D, in the sense that I always tell people when you're playing D&D, there's a certain number of filters that you have to go through. It's like, all right, I'm playing a half orc. Okay, that's cool. I'm a paladin. Dope. I got that. I'm in Waterdeep, Fantasy New York. Okay. Mind flayers are kidnapping people. That's bad. All right. Mind flayers eat brains. Oh, word. And you have to like be juggling these things to keep track of before you can get down into the actual emotional investment of it. Whereas the world of darkness is this world. It's right now. It's
right.
your city. That gas station on the corner is there. City Hall is there. That movie theater is there. It just so happens 30% of the people are monsters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in action, it's also a lot less crunchy in the sense that D&D is an explicit system. You can do what it says you can do, and you cannot do what it does not say you can do. The storyteller system is implicit. The way it's set up is like, what do you intend? And you almost certainly get to try. I mean, there are definitely limits, but for the most part, that's it. Like, to give you an example, there's a power called celerity, which is super speed. And in the description of celerity, it says how fast is fast. And it literally says fast enough. You know what I mean? That's how fast you are. You're fast enough. Like, it is not 5 feet movement squares, quite intentionally.
Wow. Yeah. And it uses a simple D6 mechanic as well, is my understanding. No?
D10 dice pools.
D10 dice pools.
It uses these. Well, first of all, that's my clan Ventru, which is the best clan. And I don't know if you're gonna be able to see these. Not really, because I don't want to tilt it too much and spill them all. But yeah, they're D10s, and you have your blood dice and you have your regular dice. Wait, it's like flying an airplane. I have to go the opposite way. There you go. And then I'm praying to little baby Jesus I don't spill these things, y'all. But yeah, D10s.
Nice. Yeah, I actually quite like dice pool systems. I'm a big fan of the D6 Star Wars role-playing game system from
West End Games, baby.
Dude, I loved that game.
Just rolling fistfuls of sixes. Which, you know what's funny? I loved that in the West End Star Wars. I hate it in Shadowrun.
It doesn't,
Don't know why.
It doesn't seem to work, right? But there's something about like the Star Wars role-playing game. Okay, my character's is pretty good. It's got 8d6 blaster, but I'm using my force point, which means I'm now rolling 16 d6.
Yep.
There's very little more satisfying than grabbing a handful of dice.
So, let me tell you a quick story about that. We played a long-term Star Wars campaign where my character was a secret clone of Darth Vader that had been sent to infiltrate the rebellion. This is before the Force Unleashed. And I told the story, the game master in advance. We had this whole thing that I was a mole, and my character's only goal was to make sure Darth Vader survived the Battle of Endor. That was the only thing I wanted. Redeemed or irredeemed, I needed to get him off the Death Star. That's all I wanted to do. And our story started before the events of The Empire Strikes Back. So during the events of The Empire Strikes Back, the rest of the group found out that I was basically a spy. Even though my character's arc was, even though I was embedded with them, he started to believe in the rebellion. You know what I mean? Like, but then he got outed as an Imperial, and so I got wounded in this battle, and my character was in the Bacta tank, and they came and they were gonna finish me off in the Bacta tank. That was the plan. But remember, you have those force points. In that game, you also had dark side points, which you didn't want to accumulate, but they could make you like way more powerful. So I blew everything. I dumped all my force points. I racked up all the dark side points. I literally lifted the entire party with the force and force lightninged all of them. And the storyteller described it as the Bacta tank boiling and shattered when I did it. And I was like, well, okay, F all y'all. You're going to find out the true power of the dark side. So yeah, it was a TPK except for me. Yeah, that was a great game.
Yeah. and that's how you win D&D.
Well, winning D&D, it's funny you say that, because I tell people I did win D&D. People are like, you can't win this game. It's like, oh yeah, you can. In 3.5, I had a character that was literally unkillable. He was invincible.
Wow.
It was the druid, planar shepherd, with the saint template and the vows of peace, poverty, and nonviolence. If you go back to 3.5, I basically really became Pun. I pulled it off. So, and you would think having a character that can do anything is fun. It's fun for about an hour.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I had to start trying to find reasons to split the party so the rest of the people could even have a chance to do anything. You know what I mean? I had to be like, I'm just gonna go look over here. You know, ominous growl over there. I'm like, I'm gonna go make sure there's not another one. You know, because everyone knew. Otherwise, I could just smash it, and it was actually very unfulfilling. But it's I did win D&D.
That's it's a life lesson for us all, I'm sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the what's happened here? Oh, have we? Cool. Sorry. Something just funny happened on my screen. I just need to.
I understand. I'm usually wearing the producer and the host hat too, so I got the easy job today. I just have to sit here and be charming.
Yes. Usually when we do our show, we have you know, the five of us around the table, and then we have our technical team who are doing the vision switching and the sound and cueing music and sound effects and all that kind of stuff. But today it's just me in the studio. And it's really easy to make mistakes.
You know what? But you're enough. You're doing great.
Thank you. It's very kind. Very kind. Yeah, I really loved how those force points in the Star Wars role-playing game could just, for a brief moment of time, just make you so overpowered.
You know, it's always difficult, especially when you have an adaptation of a high-powered property.
That's right.
To get that across in the game in a way that is not necessarily game-breaking.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate to play test the new Marvel game a few times. I play tested the most recent iteration here at SDCC, and while I will not say anything about it because I don't know what's the wrong thing to say, I will say the way the game is set up. There's a very elegant solution to how strong Daredevil is versus how strong the Hulk is.
Oh,
and it's not just roll, you know, more dice. You know, it's not Daredevil rolls 3 and the Hulk rolls 50. It's the way it is. It's very logical. It's very logical, very elegant.
Hey, just pause for just a moment. One of the people in chat, first-time chatter, has said, Vahid, I love the setup. Are the bottles resin-filled or just colored water? So I'm just going to quickly answer that. If you don't mind. Okay, so.
We're getting some practicals here.
You ready for this? Y'all ready for this? Okay, so this one here, which is a potion of put the blood back in according to our chatters, this is actually, come on, you know, the stuff that you, hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer, glitter, star anise, and red food coloring. We've got this silver one is bubble bath with some, what's that food sparkly stuff that you can put in things? What's that called? The green one is also hand sanitizer with bits and specks and things in it. So yeah, not water, because water goes off, right? So it's, I'm using mostly things that won't suddenly go moldy on me. Sorry about that little diversion.
You've seen the movie Predator, right?
I have seen Predator, of course.
Do you know how they made the blood for the Predator? You know, it's like if it bleeds, we can kill it. The green blood. You know what that is?
What is it? KY
jelly and glow sticks. That's Predator blood.
There you go. You know, yep. I when I'm not doing this, I work in the TV world, in sound design, and a music composer, and so I love hearing how sound effects and things like that are made. And my favorite one, we're getting way off topic here, I hope you don't mind.
I mean, are we?
Are we? My favorite one is Terminator 2. You know how the Mercury guy, right?
The T-1000, yeah.
T-1000, when he's going through the jail bars to get Sarah Connor, the way that they eventually made that sound was getting a can of dog food, taking the two ends off and extruding it in front of a microphone to get. So there you go. I
have two favorites.
Okay.
I have two favorites. The original sound of the TARDIS for Doctor Who is keys being scraped over a radiator. And the original Godzilla roar is a leather glove being rubbed over an untuned bass, standing bass. That's where that came from. Yep.
That Godzilla sound is so cool as well, isn't it?
It is iconic. I just like 2 weekends ago watched Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and Godzilla vs. King Kong, like back to back to back to back. And at the end of Kong Skull Island, when they say Kong isn't the only king and they just hit the Godzilla roar, I was like, oh, okay. I'm sold for all of these movies. I'm in to go wherever it is we go. Count me in for 100% of it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up on, look, my parents were not big TV folks. The TV that we had was a black and white television that we were only allowed to watch for Saturday morning cartoons and a documentary or two during the week. So I grew up watching things in black and white, but that was fine if I was watching Godzilla. Because those old Godzilla reruns, because I was born in the US. And I just loved them. Mothra, oh my goodness. Poetry.
I didn't realize how much I loved all those kaiju until Godzilla King of the Monsters and they would come out. You know, you're like, it's Rodan. It's Mothra. It's Ghidra. It's Monster Zero. You know what I mean? Like I was 8 years old again watching those movies. It was great. Thankfully, because I was not a fan of Godzilla 2014. I really wasn't a fan of the Matthew Broderick Godzilla. So it's been a minute since they got him right.
You didn't like the Matthew Broderick one?
That's a hard no. With the little baby Godzillas, that was the negatory.
That was a lot of baby Godzillas, wasn't it?
It's a lot of baby Godzillas. I know a voluminous brood of baby Godzillas. Yes.
Ay. Hey, in terms of D&D stuff, look, I love talking movies. We can keep talking movies, but I'm curious also, playing versus DMing. What are your thoughts? What's your preference? Because you do both. I think you do more DMing than playing, though, don't you?
So every time anybody would ask me this question, which I prefer, I would always say I love them both equally. However,
you love
100% of the time I'm offered to DM, I DM. I have never declined DMing to play ever. So I guess it's hard to argue with 100%.
Yeah.
You know? Especially because even when I'm playing, I'm trying to figure out where the storyteller is going so I can help row in the same direction.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to put it together, even when I'm on the other side of the table. So, but I do truly love playing.
You don't ever do the opposite of thinking, okay, this DM wants us to go left.
Never.
I'm going to go right?
Nope, never, because I'm on the other side of that. But here's the thing. Unless you're using minis in terrain, to me, it doesn't matter. If I know the dragon's behind the next door, the dragon's behind the next door. You can go left, you can go right, you're going to run into a dragon. If you split the party and go left and right, you're going to run into two dragons. So it's like, it's not possible to ruin the plan.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep yes-anding and going with it.
So that's interesting. So because you've kind of inadvertently, or not inadvertently, perhaps perfectly set up my next question, which was, do you find that all the years of DMing influences you as a player when you're as a player?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, being the storyteller and the player is not so different. It's just because when you're playing, you're still telling your character's story in context to everyone else. When you are the storyteller, you're telling everyone's story simultaneously of all of the characters in the world and everything. So you're doing the same thing. It's just one of you is doing it at a higher level than the other one is doing it.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, we've had another question come in for you. You ready for this?
My body's ready. Let's go.
All right. Lord Coyote 2000. With a recent discussion about D&D films, how do you feel about druids turning into owl bears?
Again, 3.5. I was like, that's what I was like. If anybody really gets that butthurt over it, I was like, they should be like, joke's on you. This movie's set in 3.5, and druids can just do anything. Like, where's your god now? Yeah, like, whatever, dude. You know, I mean, if that's the neat way for them to show off things and make a new generation of fans care, and I'm not saying the questioner is doing this, but everybody that is trying to hang their hat on that is being needlessly pedantic. It's just show up and enjoy the movie. It's already going to be different. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to roll a 1 at any point in the movie. When they swing, they're going to hit every time. They're going to one-shot orcs with one sword strike like everyone did in The Lord of the Rings, because that's visual storytelling. They're not going to stand there and just hack on each other for 20 minutes. Relax and enjoy the film.
And not only like Lord of the Rings, like in 4th edition.
First of all, I'm a 4th edition refugee. I hated 4th edition. I detoured to Pathfinder for the entire time that 4th edition was a thing. And it was a ways into 5th edition before I decided to try it again, even though 5th edition is the most D&D-est D&D. I was just going to say to the questioner, I'm sure that you're super cool, and that wasn't me knocking you about the Albeosh question.
No.
As the people that are attempting to use it as a tool to gatekeep, I'm like, no.
No, I actually didn't see that. I thought the person was just asking what is our opinion on the discourse, on the controversy.
Yeah, zone of safety.
Yeah, exactly. My feeling is, hey, rule of cool, right? So,
you know, yeah. I mean, if I had a player today that was like, I got a character that I want to be able to wild shape into an owlbear, and we came up with some dope player reason, I would either let them use it as the appropriate CR, or I would use just bear statistics and be like, your bear's an owlbear and action.
Yeah.
No, I mean, people here to have a good time. You know, that's those, you know, there's some hills, you know, that you have to die on because the game collapses without certain pillars. You know, there's some load bearing rules in there that it's like, well, if you take that away, this whole thing kind of isn't a thing anymore.
Yeah.
But when I'll reskin almost anything, whatever. You know, I mean, if you're like, my druid only wild shapes into dragons or dinosaurs, I'd be like, dope. We'll take these CR creatures, but when you wild shape, you describe it as whatever. You know, I mean, are you a little compy dinosaur instead of a chicken? Dope. You know, are you a triceratops instead of a black bear? Also dope. Yeah. You know, like, have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree. I think we're there to have fun, and if you put a whole bunch of limitations on players right from the beginning, I don't know. We need to have balance, of course, but, you know.
Yeah. You know, I mean, constraint breeds creativity. That's true.
True.
Because otherwise you can turn into kids playing action figures. If I hit you, no, you didn't. I hit you, no, you didn't. But again, we're here to play make-believe. We're to have a good time. You know, the thing I always say is the reason why we play these games, the reason why video games will never truly replace tabletop is it gives you an opportunity to be at cause in the narrative, to have what you do or don't do matter. That's what you're there for. So the more you constrain the player's opportunity to have a meaningful impact, the greater a disservice you're giving. Like, let me tell you a story. If any of you have seen the D&D one shot I ran for Stranger Things recently, I was setting that up. Thank you. I was setting that up the whole time for Priya, the girl who played Lady Applejack, to kill Vecna, because she kills Vecna in the show, in their D&D game. So we're going through all this. We get near the end. We had a very hard limit on time. We had, 2-hour hard limit. So we're nearing the end, and I dropped 3 of them into death saves. The only one who was still standing was Gaten's character, the cleric, and this was the one time I intervened. I was like, okay, time out. Take this out of the edit. Here's what you should do. Gaten, you should use Healing Word to get her back on her feet. Mark Vecna with the path to the grave. Priya, you attack him, and when you attack him, tell me you get a natural 20. And the reason why I did that is I didn't want to set up this whole big epic moment, have her roll and get a 1, and be like, guess Vecna kills everybody. Womp womp. Thank you for playing, So come back in. Gaten does what I ask. Priya does what I ask. She rolls, actually gets the 20.
Even better, right?
That's why everybody reacts the way they do. They're all like, she did it. She really did it. And I like literally stand up and I'm like, you are the luckiest human being because she really did it. And it's funny because I was going through the comments and I very rarely read the comments because I've been on the internet. But I was reading a lot of these comments and so many people were like, oh, they faked that 20. And I was like, I assure you we didn't. I assure you we didn't. I wasn't like, because I would have. So, it just, the dice have their story to tell, and that is the way it really, truly fell for her.
Do you know what? I actually find that the dice have their story. There is some kind of crazy story, poetic truth in that.
Mm-hmm.
In that, for some reason, so often, the roles that the story needs happen.
A lot of people don't realize the DM screen exists first and foremost for one main thing, to fudge dice rolls to the player's benefit. That's what it's actually for. For the benefit of the story and the benefit of the players. Yes. In that, if you're telling a story and your bad guy has 50 hit points left and somebody crits with the Vorpal sword, although technically you should just take their head off. But if they're fighting the Demogorgon and it has 2 heads left, and they crit with the Vorpal sword, and they should have had the Demogorgon should have had 4 hit points left that the very next attack is going to kill. Let them have their moment. Let them have the cool moment.
For sure.
And you as a player always look for opportunities to set up other people at the table for cool moments. But it's like I always say it's like assists in basketball. Always be looking for the time for the assist.
Set up the alley-oop.
Literally set up the alley-oop. There's an iconic photo of Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, and Dwayne Wade is running by in the foreground, and in the background, LeBron is about to dunk. And everybody remembers Dwayne Wade just as much for that moment, even though because it's iconic. And as long as you're looking for opportunities to give that to other people, you'll always have plenty of time for your own.
Yeah, man. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the game is that the collaborative nature of the game encourages people to celebrate other people's successes just as much as their own, right? And other people's successes are their successes.
It is a collaborative effort. It is a collaborative medium, 1,000%.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's an easy journey, right?
Well, again, if it were too easy, you wouldn't want to do it.
What's the point?
You need to struggle some, otherwise the victory doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I remember when I did We're Alive Frontier, which is the first major stream I did. I was talking to Ivan Van Norman, not knowing he was the publisher of Outbreak Undead, and I said to him, I was like, "Why does anyone play this game? I don't get it. It's so hard. Like, why are you going to get your friends together on a Friday night and do this?" Again, not knowing that he published the book. Fast forward, though, through 2 seasons of it, I absolutely get it. Because every single fight, we fought so hard and scraped so hard and struggled so much to just live that at the end of every single battle, you're like,
dude,
made it another day.
Yeah.
Made it another day. Whereas D&D, you can die, but death is kind of a revolving door. And in D&D presupposes victory for the players. If you're going to fight the ogre, you're probably going to beat the ogre. If you're going to fight the dragon, you are probably going to beat the dragon. A game like Outbreak presupposes no such thing. That thing crawled up out of the water, you should probably leave. And the only reason you should stand and fight with it is if a second one crawls out of the water on the other side and you're now trapped.
Yeah. It's interesting, in our campaign, as you were talking, I was just reflecting on, in our campaign, of the 4 players, only one of them, Truby, is experienced Dungeons and Dragons player, and the other 3 are all from the stage and television world, and so they're great presenters, but they had no D&D experience before we started streaming in January. Mm-hmm. And so I could see, and I think Truby could see, that they had assumed every encounter they were going to come across, they were going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that a good dungeon master sets that up that way. I think that there have to be battles which they just cannot win. And so it's great to see that Truby has enough experience that he can say to the guys, we got to run. Because otherwise new players thinking that they're invincible would just, go and bye story, really.
Or, it's like a video game that we'll lose, but we'll go back to the save point and try again. Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of resurrection in D&D, I must say. I like, anyway, but that's another.
Well, it changes the story when death is less of a threat, but you can still imperil people beyond death. And in the Black Dice Society, what I did to hit the emotional note I was after was I killed the cleric. And no one, or you can always counterspell resurrection, which, let me tell you something, you've not lived till you've seen people's faces when you counterspell resurrection. But, the monster would do it. So you're like, boom, yeah, now what? But, because I knew consciously, if I struck down literally anyone else, the cleric's like, get up, GG. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it's, I was talking to Keith Baker once, and he made an amazing comment, as he does, because Keith Baker is brilliant. If you had a world where resurrection was truly possible, then whoever controls the diamonds controls the world, because you control life and death. It wouldn't just be this kind of egalitarian thing. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, nope. You know what I mean? So I think if I were to want to limit that, I would make diamonds ultra scarce or ultra expensive. So getting it done meant a lot. Yeah. And it wasn't just whack-a-mole.
Yeah. Yeah. In our campaign, I've just blatantly changed the rules about resurrection and made it bear a much, much heavier personal price, and gotten rid of the diamonds completely, and tried to make it as much of a disincentive as possible. But anyway, hey, there's another question for you, if you don't mind.
Bring them on.
All right, next question. Murphy Pop Art. This was quite a while ago.
Hey, that's a homie. Hey,
homie. Mm-hmm. Hey, what are some of the favorite villains you've had in your games?
So, that person who is Kawaii Knot on Twitter and an excellent artist, and you should follow her and buy all of her wares. KAWAIINOT.
Wait. Again.
KAW.
Yeah.
AII.
Yeah.
NOT.
Yeah.
Please feel free to correct me if I just spell that wrong. I'm not going to say your people name because you didn't. They're incredible, and you should buy all the things. They were one of the players on my Patreon server, which at the height of it, I was running about 35 to 40 games a month, which I do not recommend, by the way. That was a lot. And I created some really fantastic villains for that, or villains that I came to truly love. And I think my favorite, especially because they were there for the battle with this person, was a big game hunter named Sage Wreath. I based them on Gaston. If Gaston was basically Superman, I expressly set out to create a vampire that werewolves should be afraid of, because for the most part in the world of darkness, they coexist, but it's, vampires win indirectly against werewolves. Yeah. For the most part, if you get within arm's reach, you're going to absolutely get lit up, and everyone knows it. So to create one who was a big game hunter, that all he does is go out killing werewolves, was great. And it took, I might be getting the exact time wrong, but a group of them, like 5 or 10 of them. Actually, let me take one step back. I too have been playing since the before times when a wish spell could do anything.
It's a wish.
It was it's the Twilight Zone monkey paw thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to give you exactly what you asked for. You know what I mean? Like, you wish for eternal life, but not eternal youth. Mwahaha. It's very much that. So
read the
Normally, there's not a wish mechanic in the world of darkness, but I put one in because it just kind of made sense contextually. So they had access to a wish, and a group of them worked for a month to word the wish in such a way that I couldn't get out of it because they know I'm slippery. And I'd set up this final battle, and they knew this tonight's the night. You know what I mean? Like, he's coming for you tonight. And I fully expected to kill a bunch of them. I thought they'd get him, but I was like, I'm gonna roll up some of these characters, and there is no resurrection. It's a one-way trip. And they dropped that wish on me. And I literally was like, because ultimately what they worded it very carefully, and what they did was they took his powers away. At the end of the day, they took his powers away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just made him just a normal human. But they were also happy at the fact that they'd gotten over on me, and I'm hard to get over on. You know what I mean? that it made such a memorable moment for him. They all literally like, it worked, because once he's just so literally, they took his powers away, and I might be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure it was Murphy Pop Art that was driving the truck full of explosives. If not them, it was one other person. So I don't mean that to me, but they were definitely there. They hit him, they turned him back into a normal human, and then drove a dump truck full of explosives into him and set it off. And that's how they beat him. But it was really great. It was really great. I think Sage Wreath is probably the top for me.
One of the things that you've said kind of is an interesting, triggers an interesting thought, and that is I love the perceived rivalry between players and DM.
Well, it's because back in the day, it was adversarial. It was, the DM was trying to kill you, and the players were trying to survive. I think one of the greatest evolutions of this medium has been the collaborative, it's a story we're telling together, But when you hear those old stories of your character got killed and Gary Gygax would take the sheet and tear it in half and laugh at you, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that was the game. I don't miss those days. I mean, goal, my style of storytelling is I take whatever course of action you embark on. I ask myself, what is the worst possible outcome for this? And then I do that thing. In comedy stories and horror stories, that I'm like, how can the world strike back the absolute worst and then do that? Yeah. Because when you triumph over it, it will feel so much better. Indeed.
And there are a lot of things that are fates worse than death, aren't there?
Yes. Yes.
There are things that people fear a lot more than death.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's not even about death. It's about cost. When I did my very first stream, Theogony of Kairos, the premise of that show was, sorry, I'm choking to death. I'm gonna live. Sorry. Wait, am I gonna live? Wait, I might be dying. Hang on. If I die, I can't say get revenge. I'm just gonna choke to death. Okay, good. I'm good. The premise of that show was they were level 0 characters that were blessed with level 20 powers. They were basically chosen by the gods to become avatars.
Wow.
But what I knew is if I just started episode 1 and I'm like, you're gods now, and that's the bully, they were going to be like, cool, disintegrate. So I knew I had to spend some time in the world as level 0 to put some faces on these people so it would matter when I imperiled them.
Of course.
It's a world of difference between the city's on fire.
That's right.
And the city's on fire, and the baker's daughter, who you've been in love with since you were 5 years old, is trapped in that building.
Oh, it makes a truckload of difference, and Yep. If you say the building's on fire, and yes, and it's Chester and Abigail's. It's where Chester and Abigail live. Well, they're gonna. That's a completely different thing. The villain's running that way, but the building's on fire. But the building is where Chester and Abigail live. What are you gonna do? We're gonna go to Chester and Abigail.
That's why an invitation to party. I spent so much time. That's the internet texting, by the way, to be like, "What's up? What's up, internet?"
Sorry, I muted my phone twice, but obviously I didn't know how to actually mute my phone. Sorry about that.
It bees like that sometimes. in Invitation to Party, I spent so much time with Elzarina and Terenzio Castlantern, the two kids, because their souls are going to get sold to Asmodeus. So I had them spend so much time with these children, expressly because, I mean, on the one hand, you'd be like, the devil's going to take the souls of these 9-year-olds. I mean, that's objectively like, we should probably do something, versus being like, oh no, our little homies. Like, no, not these sweet babies. You know,
exactly.
like, we'll do anything now. Yeah, you have to.
Makes a lot of difference.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, there's another interesting question in here. When we're talking about, the GM screen, and fudging rolls, all in the name of the story and all that kind of stuff. Rickajar, anyway, said, what level of responsibility should the DM have for keeping PCs alive? Wow.
None.
0. If they mess it up, it's
None.
their fault. We can fudge things and make the story more exciting, but if a player does something dumb, they do well.
I used to pull those punches, and no one actually appreciates it. They think they do, but it is actually more unfulfilling.
It is.
You are. My thing is, again, my approach to conflict, to encounter design, always across genres, is I figure out a way I know will work for certain, and then I make it as hard as I possibly can. I'm like, I know the dragon's got a weak point on the back of its head, and then I make it as raw as I possibly can, because the characters and the dice will surprise and betray you. They will think of interesting things to do. They will roll what you didn't expect. Yeah. They will come up with something. Mm-hmm. Now, again, but buttress that with the rule of cool, what you were just saying. You know what I mean? Where if they come up with an ingenious way to figure out the dragon's weak point, I'll give it to them. If they say, if they're really having a hard time, you never go wrong with like, give me perception or insight. You notice blink.
Yeah.
If they hit it with a fireball, it's like you notice none of the scales scorch except this one, and it pulls its head back from you, and shakes violently. There's ways you can still handhold them. One of the biggest red flags you can ever encounter in this space is when someone says, I'm a consequences DM. Like, no, that's a BS power tripper. Like, no, dude, no, that's not what we're here to do. And I don't mean that you can't have an equal and opposite reaction, but when they're like, I'm at the table to punish you, don't play with that person.
Yeah, it's interesting, like you talked about in the old days, in the beginning, it really was a players versus DM kind of setup. And some of the modules, some of those early modules were basically, they were death traps. That's what they were for.
Mm-hmm.
They were meat grinders. And
Literally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But because I always played with my brother and sister, I don't know, we just never did that. So I never really understood that.
It's, there's sort of, the whole old school Renaissance doesn't really appeal to me because, again, I was there. I've done a lot of streams, even recently, first edition games or like, Tomb of Horror speed runs and stuff. And it's like the original Tomb of Horrors, there was places that it's like, oh, you open the door. Do you go in? It's an annihilation ray. You die.
That's
literally.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, what? Like why is that enjoyable? You're like 50-foot pit full of spikes. You die. Also, if you try and jump across it, there's a second 50-foot pit. You also fall and die. It's just like, but a lot of that too was the game's war game roots.
That's exactly
where
right.
it was, grid square. You got your army, I got my army, and not unlike chess, we are in an adversarial, conflict here. So it having evolved out of that.
Yeah, and the idea is that people in those kind of modules, they'd be making their maps as they go along, and they would write, oh, that door there, death ray.
Yep.
Let's not go in
death
there.
Door.
Okay, let's go resurrect that person. All right, come in. Hey, we remember what's happening in that door. Let's not go there this time. So it was that kind of game. I
remember there was one that I think it was Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil, that this came out in the 90s, and they hyped it as the hardest D&D adventure ever, the hardest module ever. Turns out there was a typo in it that made it actually impossible.
Oh, really?
You had to find keys, basically, and the keys were hidden, and you couldn't go forward without finding the keys. And due to a typo, one of the keys was literally not in the book. So
Brilliant.
people didn't complain at first because they were like, well, you already told me this is the hardest thing ever, so there's just something
really
I'm not doing. Yeah, but I don't know what it is, you know? And then later they were like, oh yeah, the key's supposed to be hidden in the fireplace. Womp womp. They had to publish, they published an addendum in Dragon Magazine. This was before the internet, kids, when you had to rely on printed media and word of mouth.
Indeed.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful days, beautiful days. Hey, there was one of the things that we've been talking about. Been talking about the changing face of D&D and the gaming thing, and that's one of the three main questions that I always ask when having these midweek chats is the evolution of the game, and how you see this evolution to have happened. You know, like what's your perception about that evolution of the game?
Like how it came to be what it is right now?
Yeah. And you know, like, because you and I have seen a lot of changes in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Well, let me make sure I'm answering the question you're asking me. Do you mean the brass tacks of how first edition became fifth edition and those innovations, or
no. Let me
the
try
culture again. the culture at the table?
Yeah, let me try again. How do you see? Yeah, what's your impression on the big changes of culture that have happened around it? Because it is no longer Some people do play it like a war game, but a vast number of people that play it more like a storytelling thing. So yeah,
sure.
What's your take on all that?
To me, for all of this whole upswell that we're seeing, I trace it back to the 2008 Iron Man.
No way.
Oh yeah.
You're the first person that ever said that.
Well, you know, you'll always remember your first. The reason why I say that is that movie came out, and it was the first time that adults freely got to admit that it's like, I truly love this comic book character.
Yeah.
And it's like, is it okay for me to like the Hulk and Captain America? It's like, yeah, in fact, here are the Avengers. And you're like, what? And then it's like, well, I'm a grown up and I also still like playing video games. And it's like, yeah, video games are dope. And it's like, what about Dungeons and Dragons? And it's like, yeah, that this geek renaissance was ushered in by the fact that these things we all always loved, truly, could freely admit that you don't have to outgrow, or it's not like lame to just enjoy, that you get to just love things. Because people were playing it all the time, but I mean, you know, D&D was largely underground, and I meet people every single day that tell me I always wanted to play, I didn't know how, couldn't get a group, you know, and now it's become more and more ubiquitous, and that people have heard the name but didn't know what it implied until recently. You know, when I do these things like Invitation to Party, like the Stranger Things game, my intent was to do it in such a way that a person watching would say, I want to try that. That's what I want to do. You know, in the way you serve that is by making sure the people at the table are having a good time. Yeah. Streaming, when it is done properly, when it is done most effectively, the people at home should feel like they're at the table with their friends. That is how it should feel.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly.
And if you're serving them, you will be serving the audience. Yeah. But yeah, that's why it has changed. Yeah. And you get a couple people that try to be neckbeards about it, that try to be like, you can't wild shape into an owlbear. It's like, bro, it's make-believe. Who cares? Who cares? Like, why is that the hill you're gonna die on? Because there's something else you're gonna see over the court, like when the black dragon flies overhead and it's supposed to be breathing poison gas, but it just kind of looked like gloopy stuff that was falling out of it. It's like, okay, dope.
I thought it looked awesome.
You know? I thought the mimic was my favorite part, when it like shoots the tongue out, like hits the wall and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah.
And I really love the gelatinous cube too, I must say.
Yeah, all of it. You know
All
what I
of
mean?
it.
All of it. What all they have to do for that movie is they just have to tell a compelling fantasy story. That's all they have to do. Just like The Lord of the Rings is a compelling fantasy story. If they can insert some of the other trappings and fan service, like a displacer beast, an owlbear, a mimic, a gelatinous cube, that means something to us. That means nothing to the masses.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
the story will have characters they give a damn about and a compelling narrative, or it won't, and it will stand or fall on that. No one who is operating in good faith is going to be like, I hated the movie because of the owlbear, because I'm like, well, then you don't really love this stuff, man. You know, it's the same thing with Miss Marvel. People that were like, I'm boycotting the show because they gave her energy powers and not stretchy powers. And it's like, then you don't love that character. If you are hoping something fails, you don't truly love that thing.
Yeah. I actually thought that I mean, we're I don't know if it's a digression or not, but I actually really loved that series.
Yeah,
I thought
great.
it was cool. I thought it was great.
Part of the reason why you're seeing, you know, Iron Man work the way it worked, and Deadpool, and Guardians of the Galaxy, and Avengers, and now D&D, is you've got people that grew up loving these things and take it seriously and are coming from a place of love. They don't think it's kid stuff. They don't think it's just a cash grab. I mean, there are cash grab movies like the Josh Trank Fantastic Four, but you know, for the most part, the things that really resonate is because it's from people that truly care about these things, and you can tell and you can feel it. Yeah. You know, again, New Zealand, Peter Jackson loved The Lord of the Rings, and you could tell.
That's right.
You know, The Hobbit got a little bloaty. That's a little greedy, but you know, still, you know, yeah,
yeah. Wait. Anyway, yeah.
Where they were like, make it 3 movies again, and it's like,
it's only a small, anyway.
It's a very short book, yeah, but you know, still.
But hey, if we introduce a whole bunch of new characters and they do, anyway.
Here, what I will just say this one last thing about the movie. I've not seen it. I've had you know, I have minimal backroom insight into that aspect of Hasbro's dealings, but I've talked to people who've seen it, and they say it's really dope. Like their eyes light up. Like I mean, they're like, no, it's good. And I'm like, okay, you know, sign me up.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
One of the like part B of the question about your thoughts on the evolution of the way people play the game. If I'll just make an aside before I go into my part B question, is that, you know, when I stream, when DMing this Dice Legenz stuff, the cast, as I mentioned, they're all TV and stage professionals, and its storytelling and character are really central to the experience, and you know, the role playing, the being a character is real central to the experience. And then I have another game that I play with some people that I've done D&D for decades with, and it's much more wargamey. You know, the role-playing element isn't as important. It's still there, but it's not as important. And I love both of them. You know, the wargamey one, we can go entire sessions where we're just going from encounter to encounter, whereas in the live stream, I don't know, it just doesn't have the same punch. But you know, having the role-playing thing anyway. What I'm trying to say is that in this changing face of how it's played, I think one of the things I love about it is that there's room for different people's expression to have an arena, you know?
Well, there's no wrong way to play, you know? It's not every table is for every player, and not every player is for every table. If you, ideally, as a storyteller, you've got to give everyone their chance to shine. You've got to give the sneaky person a chance to sneak, the talky person a chance to talk, the fighty person a chance to fight. If your table is full of fighty people, then the game can be nothing but fighting. If your game is nothing but sneaky people, the game can be nothing but sneaking, as long as everybody's getting what they want out of it. In terms of streaming, I think you'd be hard-pressed to have a super crunchy game get any meaningful traction.
That's exactly
because if you just want, you'd be hard to beat just an Overwatch stream. If you're just looking for chaos and combat, video games do that much better, and there's lights and flashing and sounds and explosions. I mean, it could be done, I guess. I haven't seen it done. I mean, that's like chess streaming is becoming bigger. But I mean, again, it's rough to sit and watch, it's rough to sit and watch. And also well, another thing you have to realize too is the most people, the overwhelming majority of the people that consume this content aren't watching it, they're listening to it. Their mom watching it. It's on the second monitor. It's on in the background. They're listening through their headphones while they're cleaning. And maybe if something wild starts to happen, they'll stop and turn and look. So listening to a fight for 2 or 3 or 4 hours?
Yeah.
Seems improbable.
Yeah, and that's right. But it also means that for a streaming situation, encounters need to have emotional impact as well.
Yes.
Whereas with the game that I play with my lifelong friends, the encounters can actually be around resource management. About this one is going to. I can't use all my spells here because there's going to be another one. It's a different. Yep. It's a different expression of the game.
A very useful trick is, especially if you're dealing with intelligent creatures, is have the monsters talk trash, especially if they miss. If they attack and miss and have the monster the adversary say something sassy, you watch people's eyes, like the pupils, like them become pimp. Exactly, yeah. And then you're like, now it's something other than just rolling. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, so the part B of my question, which was around the changing expression of the game. The part B is, I want your school of divination. Where do you see it going? Because we've seen within the last 10 years, this real kind of immersion of the streaming as a big part of the D&D landscape. We've seen role playing become more and more important. There's been a whole bunch of parts of evolution of the game. Well, yeah, where do you think? Where's it going?
Well, I'm doing everything I can in my power to help shape and steer it. But I see bigger and bigger and bigger and more and more and more. More corporate interests, bigger money, bigger stages, bigger spectacles, more access. I mean, I was the first person to do it on television. I won't be the last. I've proven the concept now. I did everything I could to open the door for the next person. If I had to wager a guess, because of the success of the Legend of Vox Machina, you'll see more animated adaptations. I think at some point somebody's stuff is going to end up on Netflix. Like they'll buy the rights to somebody's catalog and throw it up in the back. It's just right now it's the Wild West. There is no mainstream entertainment doesn't know what box to put this in because it's so cheap to produce. But it is also very difficult to monetize, but then it's also very long. And then the question everybody is trying to answer, and I know every major person in this space, and we all have the same conversation, is you need enough content to build a following in a fandom, but not so much content that it becomes prohibitive for new people to join. And where is that intersection and how do you manage it? And everybody answers it differently. Dimension 20 answers it by having short campaigns, 6 to 8 episodes, and that's it. And it's more about the D20 umbrella. Critical Role handles it by doing, 100 or 200 episodes and then restarting the campaign again. Everybody answers it in different ways, but that's the hard part. Yeah. But yeah, I think we'll see more and more mainstream manifestations of it, and still more and more opportunities for people going like the indie route, because I know some seemingly small outlets that are making significant money. I'm not gonna name them because it's not my intent to bust out anybody's financials, but I know when it came out exactly how much money CR actually makes on Twitch, I guarantee you the next day there was a lot of meetings and a lot of boardrooms.
Yeah, I suspect so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to talk about, because as I mentioned before, I professionally been in the television world. And here in New Zealand, there's a lot of public funding to encourage local content to be on screens.
Is that the dole?
No, is not the dole.
Oh, shoot.
There are public funding, that to allow content to be created, and some awesome content gets created. And so so I went through the process of contacting people at there's like 3 main organizations to try to figure out, how could something like this, a streamed thing, which is expressing New Zealand culture, and how could we access some of that funding? And at the moment, we just are in a category we do not fit in any of the boxes. There are boxes for pretty much everything else, but it's mainstream media doesn't yet know how to classify this streaming stuff.
Before I comment, I asked you a question here in our little chat over here. I always show you what's going on behind the curtain here, audience. So yes, here in our Zoom chat, I asked you a question. But here it gets lumped into new media. But that became an issue where it came out like certain multi-million-dollar productions were running themselves still as new media just to escape paying people, which is of course bad. Everyone knows this digital thing is not going to stop. It's not going to get any smaller. It's only going to keep growing. But it is not clear where it's all going to fit in, and a lot of that is because the at least here the mainstream entertainment machine is just that, and it's about rights and how you can monetize things repeatedly and how you can carve merch out of it, and all of those things are being done in the streaming space at a small level, but it very much has not reached its critical mass just yet.
Yeah,
but it's coming. You know what I mean? I definitely have taken meetings with much larger corporate interests that are trying to figure out how to get a slice of the pie.
You're right. Yeah. Indeed. Yeah, it's interesting. Australia is actually, I think they're pretty advanced. They publicly fund some D&D stuff over there. Very interesting.
That must be nice.
Yeah.
Some of us are bootstrapping it.
Totally. There's one of our friends I saw here in the chat, Dead Aussie Gamer. He gets he's basically a professional DM for his local government. He's amazing. It's amazing. Anyway, we won't.
That's astonishing.
Yeah, we don't need to.
Again, some of us are out here bootstrapping it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you and me both, buddy. Hey, so just turning to chat for a little bit, I noticed that I hadn't really been paying them attention because I was listening to you so much. Was there any other questions that we missed? Oh, there was one question about, do you think there'll be a time when there's a competitive PvP D&D circuit that goes around?
Yes, I mean, Realmsmith just did Champions of the Realm. I myself taped a project that hasn't come out yet. I do know, as of now, corporate D&D is not interested in competitive PvP D&D because Magic is that. So they're not interested. A few people have taken bites at the apple. I myself think I have figured it. I think I figured it out. We'll find out when my thing comes out. We actually taped it ages ago. We taped it at the height of the pandemic, but in terms of just like editing it and getting it all out. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm right. I think it'll happen though. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just I will just say as an aside though, the game as it exists only lends itself so well to fighting other characters because all things being equal, you can almost everybody can dish out more than they can take. So it very quickly becomes rocket tag if you're not careful.
Yeah. I think a bit of PvP is a heck of a lot of fun. But the core game mechanics, that's not the intention of the core game mechanics. So I don't know if it perfectly suits that kind of, it's not set up to be balanced for that kind of expression.
Correct. If when you're all on a team, if one character is significantly stronger, but the other character has like a vital service they provide, like a healer, they still very much have a place on the team. that if those two things in oppositions is by no means balanced, and that is true. Like I said, I think I figured it out. We'll find out, but I think somebody's gonna.
I'm excited. Yeah, excited to see how that goes. Really, it'd be fascinating to see when it comes out. When do you think it's coming out? Or if you're able to say.
Like I said, we taped it so long ago. It's just, we're all gonna look so different when it actually goes up into the world. Yeah. So I don't know. Who knows? Honestly, if we take too long, especially because it was all pandemic time filming, past a certain point, it will be weird. Now that the world is restarting, it'd be better to just do it again together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. The third main question that I like to ask people. And I'd really love to hear your comments on it because I know you'll have thoughts on it. What do you think what's the value in it? Where's the value? Because to preface one of the core aspects of human nature is that we want to be productive in our time on this planet. We want to be of value and of benefit to society and to others around us. Yeah, to our friends, our families, our society.
Hopefully.
That's right. So where do you think is the value in all this?
Before I answer with my vociferous ramble here, I got about 15 minutes left. So chat, if you got more questions, give them to me now.
That's why I'm asking this last question, because we're wrapping up in 14.
Hey, well, if you got another question, put a capital question in front of it. Make it easier to stand out. For me, in my money, storytelling is what makes humans human. Every other thing we do, some other animal does. And in the fullness of time, when we find out what crows and dolphins and whales and ravens are saying to each other, and elephants, they might be telling each other stories right now too. As far as we know, we're the only ones. We're the only ones that can sit around a fire, talk about the labors of Hercules, and take meaningful, actionable insight about life from that.
Sure.
When I talk to people about playing these games, especially when they've never done it, I always lead in the exact same way, and I ask them, what's your favorite book? What's your favorite TV show? What's your favorite movie? How would you like to live it? Because our minds don't know the difference between something that is real and something that is vividly imagined. And if you need proof of this, you can have a vivid fantasy in your mind, and your body will react physiologically because it doesn't know you're just imagining it. So when you have those times, like I was talking about, that they all work together for so long to find a way to bring down this unkillable vampire.
Right. Yeah.
Is they think back on that now and the camaraderie of it in their minds, it is just as real than as if it had actually happened. We've all got those stories of when you rolled the crit and killed the monster in the big in the moment. That's the value. That's the value. That you give a person an opportunity to live their own mythology, to actually get to feel what it is like to be the hero or the villain, but to be at cause, to have what they do or don't do matter, because life so frequently denies us that. That's the value of it. Yeah.
I think there's so much truth in what you just said. The story is quite central to human expression, isn't it? Human experience, I mean. And that stories inspire us to be better. They warn us to avoid things that are dangerous. They show us how to be a member of society in a productive way. Yeah.
You would hope, for me, in my money, that's why diversity matters. That's why diversity and inclusion is important. Everyone needs to see themselves reflected in the media, both as hero and villain, to have something aspirational to move towards and also to move away from. That is like, that is what I want to be. That is not what I want to be. Yeah. To help put those rails up for you, or a map, not rails, a map, such as it is.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, there's one last question, and it's rather mundane. What's the best sandwich in the world? Is the question that was asked to us. Actually, I don't know if we need to answer that one, because there's another one that's perhaps from Lord Coyote.
No. Now I'm thinking about the best sandwich in the world.
I think I'll answer quickly, and then while you're thinking about it. Peanut butter and jam sandwich is the best because it's easy. You can put it together, you smash it together, eat it, and you're done. There we go. That's my answer.
There's a debate raging over here about whether or not a hot dog is a sandwich, and that's neither here nor there. I gotta say a cheeseburger, like a bacon cheeseburger, just because I probably consume that more than any single, except I guess protein shakes are the things I consume the most. But second to that, probably cheeseburgers.
Bacon cheeseburgers? Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had a
Morocco.
cheeseburger in probably a decade.
You should come back to America to get some of this freedom we got laying around.
I'll tell you what, buddy.
I realize you got healthcare and education and, but we got cheeseburgers, right? So there you go.
Yeah, sure, New Zealand, your education system is free. Sure, your healthcare is free.
Yeah.
Sure.
You literally live in Middle Earth if you're into that.
Yeah, but
we got cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
Advantage America.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you said a more compelling question.
And then we're going to wrap up. What would be your dream Black Die Society merchandise? Okay, buddy, merchandising.
I'm like, what? This whole thing? Here's the thing. The problem.
Beautiful.
The problem with me, Adam Schubert's art. The problem with me and most people's what is your dream blank or X or Y or whatever? Anything I want to do, I do. I don't have a lot of unfulfilled dreams. If I want it, I go after it. But if I had to pick, I get a video game would be great. About most of the cast is in Idle Champions. So we are characters in a fighting. Oh, it's great. The first time when I got my character put into Idle Champions, it was shocking to me how fulfilling it was. I'd say if we got our own video game, that would be it.
Yeah, cool. Beautiful. Hey, I'll just just turning back to chat for a moment. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks everyone for joining us. We're just gonna be winding up. So thanks for all the questions. I'll just do a quick shameless self-promote for our channel, and then we'd love to hear
one question.
Yeah, man, do it.
Were there any more questions? Because I'll speed run them. I don't care. I'll lightning round them.
Question: who is someone in the entertaining world that you want to DM for in a stream?
Mark Hamill.
Dude, wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that would be super cool. That would be super cool. Awesome. Cool. All right. Hey, great. So I'll just do a quick shameless promote for us, and then we'll wrap it up, and hear from you to wrap it all up. So thanks everyone for joining. As I mentioned at the beginning, and as you can see down below, my name is Vahid. I'm the DM for Dice Legenz. We're a Dungeons and Dragons show. I'll just put up some information.
Okay, wait a second. Wait.
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah. Give the elevator pitch. Just saying you're a D&D show. That's not enough information. We don't know.
You ready?
D&D show. Here we're listening and sell it. Go.
Okay. I don't mind doing this. I just don't want to. I invited you to be part of this show, and we've come here to listen to you, and I don't want to seem to be...
If not now, when, brother? You've earned it. No,
okay,
pitch.
Ready?
The elevator's already at the top. Come on.
Okay,
Give it to me.
Dice Legenz is a fast-paced, exciting, hilarious fantasy story set in a grand walled city called Aratai, where the forces of darkness are washing over this fair city. And our 4 humble town guards seem to be all that stand in the way of it destroying their city, them, and their loved ones. Our cast are professional actors, improvisational comedians, TV personalities from here in New Zealand. We film on this cute little set here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. We would love for you to join our adventure and see the rise of these 4 humble town guards and what they do. What will they sacrifice for the benefit of the common people around them and for their loved ones?
It sounds so dope.
I tell you what, man.
Yeah.
The forecast that I have on this show, they are. I'll just give them a bit of spotlight if you don't mind.
Yeah.
All right. Monique, Ronnie, Truby, and Raylene, they are just such beautiful people to play with. They are so fully engaged in the story. They're just such a joy.
Fantastic.
And the other thing I wanted to say while you've put the spotlight back on me is that we're really close to having our first 1,000 followers here on Twitch. We're a new stream. And so if anyone here is new to our channel, we humbly invite you to hit that follow button because we're really keen to get to that 1,000 followers mark. And we really appreciate all the subscribers and all that. But what we're doing is in 2 weeks, in 10 days, we're running a 27-hour charity stream party for the Red Cross, and we've got some really beautiful people that are joining us as guest DMs and players. So Sensei Suplex is going to be running a PvP. On one day, Robert Hartley GM is going to be running a game. One of our players, Truby, is going to be running a game, and I'm going to be running a game. And so we've got these lovely guests joining us. And so that's August 5th and 6th if you're in North America, and 6th, 7th if you're in New Zealand and Australia. And we would really love to have everyone in the whole universe join us.
Sounds dope.
So please do hit us with a follow. We'd love to have you on board. So that's all of my pitching done. So please, Dave, what anything you're wanting to promote, to shout out, please go for it.
Legends of the Multiverse, Wednesdays at 5, Black Dice Society, Thursdays at 4, both on the official D&D Twitch and YouTube. Next week, if you're going to be at Gen Con in Indianapolis, we're doing Black Dice Society Live. Come see us. You can see my freaky ginormitude in person. Follow me on the tweetagrams at bdavewalters, and my DMs are open if you have any questions.
And that's it there. Pretty easy. Mm-hmm. Dave Walters, pretty easy to remember, isn't it?
That's how we do. That's why I did it.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much, B-Dave. I really appreciate you taking time out. I don't know how you do it after having Comic-Con slammed through that, and now here you are in the evening. Instead of resting, you're talking with us. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you all having me on, and I'm going to go record a podcast right after this. So, we got to make it happen. Got to do what we do.
Beautiful. Hey. Guys in chat, thanks so much for hanging out with us. It's been a real joy having you with us, and we'll catch you on the weekend. See you later.